Good morning, everyone. I am Priya and I have with me Stuti, and we'll be your hosts for the day. So, how's the zest and zeal going? I can witness so many brilliant, enthusiastic participants with great zest and zeal in their reactions. So, how are you feeling? How's the Electrothon fever going? Finally, the wait is over, Ashmit. Yes, the wait is over. So, on the behalf of Team Spec and ATH, we extend a warm and hearty welcome to each one of you present here today.
Spec, or Society for Promotion of Electronics Culture, runs under the guidance of the National Institute of Technology, Hamirpur, to instill the passion for technology and impart knowledge not just for academic brilliance, but to prepare one for the world that exists beyond college.
The occult behind every successful organization is the enlightening vision of its intuitive leaders. Without any doubt, Team Spec has been able to reach its full potential under the guidance of its visionary leaders who have always put their personal agendas aside and constantly thrived to delineate emerging technological advancements.
We would like to express our sincere gratitude to our director, Professor Hiralal Muralidhar Suryavanshi, for fostering holistic development and inaugurating technical events.
Under the constant guidance of Dr. Gargi Khanna Ma'am, Head of Department, Electronics and Communication, and Dr. Dharmendra Singh Yadav Sir, Direct Faculty in Charge, SPEC has been soaring to greater heights over the years.
The vision, extraordinary abilities, and leadership of Mr. Yuvraj Kadale Sir, President of SPEC, and Mr. Yash Prakash Gupta, Vice President of SPEC, has indeed traversed ineffable challenges to stretch boundaries and encourage the team to explore the unexplored.
And this year, grander than ever, Electrothon is back with its fourth iteration Innovation Illuminating Reality. The global hackathon that will teleport you to the world of breathtaking technology and unparalleled innovations.
With this said, today we have an eminent personality lined up to enchant the world of open source and community collaboration for a shared cause.
Entailing the principles of creativity, inclusion, and innovation, open source has left no stone unturned to make sure that the developer community has the freedom to create symbiotic associations where innovative ideas prevail the world.
From idea yielding to community building, open source is no longer a development methodology, but a revolution in itself that empowers millions of developers across the globe.
Embarking on these fundamentals, it is the moment of great honor and an extreme privilege to have with us today Mr. Arihant, an excellent programmer, a Ruby on Rails developer, and a prolific service engineer.
Thank you so much for your
Hi, sir.
introduction, Priya and Stuti.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Alrighty. So I think we can wrap up this presentation already because you have already provided so much good idea about what open source is.
Yeah, sure.
Just kidding.
We'll give you a brief description about you to the audience, and then we'll move
Cool.
to the session. Stuti?
Um, a former team lead at Exa Digital Solutions, tech lead at Citius Tech. He is presently working as the senior support engineer at GitLab Incorporate, the open source company that provides GitLab, the DevOps software which combines the ability to develop, secure, and operate software in a single application.
Talking about Arihant, be it his expertise in DevOps, cloud services, AWS, GCP, Azure, CI/CD, databases, or His vision towards confronting bias alongside celebrating diversity and inclusion in the workspace, he is absolutely an inspiration for all. His belief in the philosophy that the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle, and his exemplary mindset to be an upstander, not a bystander, truly makes him a man to behold. It is indeed a positive delight to announce Gitlab as one of the title sponsors of the colossal technical extravaganza Electrothon 4.0. A very, very good morning, sir. We are glad to have you here with us on board today.
Thank you so much, Priya. Thank you so much, Stupi, for such an amazing introduction.
All right,
Mm.
sir. So,
All
as we
righty.
can, yeah.
So I think it's my clue to start. So all right. Good morning, everyone, or wherever you are in the world. Good evening, good afternoon, good night. So my name is Arihant. Let me give you a quick introduction, as Priya has already mentioned. But on my side, let me just tell you a little bit about me. So, my name is Arihant. I am a senior support engineer currently working at GitLab. Prior to that, I worked with a couple of multinationals at very different roles, starting as a developer to a tech lead. And then I am currently working for last 5.5 years for GitLab. I am a true open source and automation enthusiast. I firmly believe in open source technologies. Uh, I'm a firm believer of free as in freedom, not free as in fear. I'm already in my part time. I'm also a mentor in Rails Girls Summer of Codes. So that is a little bit about me. Uh, so, what's going to be today's agenda? So, we're going to talk about what is open source, why open source, what are the risks involved, is it a proven business model, career in open source in practice, and at the end, we'll take your question and answers. Alrighty. So, what is open source? Open source, as derived from the word open source software, which means anyone can distribute, anyone can modify, anyone can see the code, what they see to the fit. So it's not necessary or limited to just one person making the modifications. Anyone can come and contribute if they see that this is the thing that this software needs. Today, open source is powering major companies across the globe. You may be using a a phone or a tool in your day-to-day life which is being somehow volunteered by an open source community members. It is bringing competitions together to work on a single problem. That is the beauty of open source. You may be thinking, so how it all started? So here's an interesting story. In 1970, at MIT Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, there was a printer that was regularly gets jammed. Richard Stallman, who was a staff engineer back then, was so frustrated by this problem. So he altered the code of that printer. And whenever the printer gets stuck, it automatically triggers an alert to the team members that, hey, please fix the printers. Moving maximum next year, they got a new printer. And Richard tried to do the same thing. What happened? He was not able to access the code. He tried to get the access to the code by contacting the company, but request denied. He was so upset with this, he ultimately quit his job and completely dedicated his career to open source development and started GNU in 1983. He is also started the free software development movement, which right now is considered as free and open source movement. Now, why open source? You may be thinking like, yeah, it's freely available. Why? Why should I use it? First of all, it is available to everyone without any biases. That means anyone can use it. May it be a college student, may it be a professional who's working in a tech giant, may it be someone who's just learning code in their schools or anywhere. It is freely available. And even in the licensing terms, once it is freely available, it is free for life. You can make your own changes. You can submit your own merge request. You can access the code at your own pace and whatever things that you like. It is transparent. um, Open source does what it says on the tin. That means whatever things that are written in the code, it's available for you to see. That means nothing is happening in the background that you're not aware of. It is removing the barriers between the innovators. There may be two competitive companies who are working in on a competitive world, but in the background, there might be people who are working on a single product which is open sourced. Collaboration at its best. Secure. It is secure. Why I'm saying so? You may be contradicting the statement, hey, it cannot be secure if the source code is open. Like, how can it be secure? It is secure because many eyes are looking at the code. Many eyes are looking at the fix of a problem. So it is, as soon as a problem is identified, people will rush towards it and fix it. When I say people, these are the collaborative teams or the volunteers or the contributors who are working actively on the project. Community. It is built by the community for the community. Last and not the least, it's cost effective. Many of the startups, may it be in India and across the world, might want to look for, don't want to burn out cash on some proprietary software. So to begin with, they pick open source as their tools. Some well-known companies and you can say products and platforms that are using open source. You may be heard of many. I have just included some of them. These are some of the products and platforms that are built on top of open source. You are using Chrome that is built on top of Chromium. You might be using Linux. You might be using Git. Android phones that you are using is a part of an open source project. VLC media player. There are many. So do you know you are relying on volunteer label in many cases by thousands of strangers around the world? How is it as a proven business model? You can say Microsoft has acquired GitHub for $7.5 billion. IBM acquired Red Hat for 34 billion because they know the importance and the value that it brings to the business. Um, Many open source products recently have gone public or listed in NASDAQ or in their respective uh, firms. Let's say HashiCorp, MongoDB, they have recently IPO'd and they are doing amazing with a very great valuation. To begin, let's also analyze what risks are involved using open source. Not all that shines as glitters. There may be some open libraries that you're using are open for vulnerabilities. So yes, vulnerabilities is a big risk. But vulnerabilities are a public knowledge that is even riskier. That means if a vulnerability is identified, the contributor made it public for available for everyone to see that okay, there is a vulnerability that is existing in the software. So it can be misused against you when you're using an open source code. The recent example is the Log4j vulnerability. Log4j is nothing but an open source software for logging libraries in Java, for libraries in Java. Yeah. So I've had a good discussion with my fellow colleagues in working in different companies. They were having nightmares in updating their source code as soon as they have identified there is a vulnerability that exists which can access their proprietary things. So yes, this is a problem. Long-term sustainability. What does that mean? So you're totally relying on the community to update that particular piece of code if you're facing any problem. If a developer feels burned out and they're not able to contribute, that means you cannot have any further updates and that product or that feature or that particular code base might get deprecated over the period of time and cannot keep up with the current technology sets because technology is evolving so fast. We have to also understand because these are open source volunteers who are dedicating their time explicitly apart from on their own interest. So we are totally on their discretion, on the communities, that they can will come and update their feature sets. They will come and update with any kind of vulnerabilities. So these are some of the common problems using an open source tools. But how we are fixing it? Now, many companies are leading from the front to contribute to the community. Once they were closed source, now they are leading from the front. Given an example, Microsoft, they were not firm believer of open source. In fact, they openly said that, okay, we don't like open source. Now it is the other way around, where Microsoft is actively contributing and currently leading the battle from the front by being the most active in the community and the active contributors. Google, Red Hat, these are some of the names that are there. I'll give you a simple example, a fun fact that you might be heard of Linux. Do you know what happens in Linux? This platform changes 9 times an hour. 10,000 lines are getting added every day. 5,000 lines are changed. 8,000 lines are removed every day. This is by far the highest velocity and most effective software development in the entire world. So, how GitLab embraces open source. So let me give you a little bit introduction about GitLab. So GitLab is a tool that is open core, and it provides developer a DevOps solution. So from development to deployment, GitLab has all covers all the stages, which uh, from maybe from a issue tracking, maybe creating from a very basic issues till the last end of deployments and till the monitoring. So GitLab is what you can say as a product which is based on an open core technology. Now, GitLab has also depending on a strong community. GitLab is building a strong community of open source model. It has, if you can see the latest contributions, we over the period of time we have received 13,217 merge requests by 3,209 contributors at 138 repositories. This covers the latest data, and as you can check, the graph is constantly increasing. That means the contributions are totally getting updated. So why should I do it? And what's in it for me? You may be thinking like, yeah, that everything is good, but why should I? First of all, it's a great learning experience. Why I'm saying it's a great learning experience? Because you may be thinking that uh, every time a college engineering student can get into a stage where they have to get internships, we are looking for so many companies, we apply in different places, but do you know what exactly you're doing at the end? You are working on a product, you're working on a problem, you are working you are being mentored by someone. You can do that in an open source contribution. You can start contribution to an open source project, and you will get mentored by some of the best talent in the world. You can get the great learning experience. You will be solving a real-time problem, not something that, hey, let's make a library management tool. No, this is not what I meant by a problem. Real world problems, real world problems are actually the problems that can better someone's life. um, you get monetary benefits, you get sponsorships, grants, uh, you can attend the bug bounty programs. The most important part as a student is it's going to enhance your resume significantly. When I say it, uh, I'll, I'll tell you what my story was. Um, it will give you career opportunities, a lot of career opportunities, being a core contributor, being a maintainer of a platform where big firms sponsor you by just maintaining that code base. So these are the things. Let me tell you my story. So when I was in college, I used to work on small projects of my own. Um, After passing the college, I joined a company. And then what I used to do is whenever I used to learn something, I start contributing by responding to the Stack Overflow questions. When I say open source, it is not just limited to contributing to a code base. It is also available to like helping the community, helping others to learn as well what exactly you're doing. So I started contributing to Stack Overflow. At the first, when I started, I felt okay, let me give this a try. I know this problem. Let me help this person. It started with the first contribution, and still that I never stopped. And I was always, it is my passion to uh, help community members in providing different solutions. If I am learning a thing, I try go on Stack Overflow, I respond to their questions, let others implement it, and I also check with the community contributors day in day out. So the next point, how you can contribute. The most significant problem that I have observed within the community is everyone thinks that, hey, it's all about source code, coding. No, it is not just limited to coding. You can learn, you can do as a very minimum contribution, starting as a doc fix. You might see a grammatical issue, you can fix that. You can fix a typo. This will increase your confidence in contributing to an open source project. You, if you feel comfortable in coding, you can start picking up bugs, you can start picking up features. What is the worst can happen? Your merge request or your contribution will not accept it, but you will learn a great lesson on how you can contribute. There are many things, there are many open source, you can see from the list, there are many communities that are available that are open for you to look at the projects. Just look at the projects, there are so many around there right now. You can also participate in the hackathons, open source programs like GSOC, DigitalOcean Hacktoberfest, FOSS Asia, and from these lists also you can pick up the projects. The only thing that is required is a Git, and if you're a developer, a tech stack that you want to work on. It may be a blockchain, it can be machine learning, AI, or cloud computing, etc. So initially, if you're a software developer, or you can say if you are a programmer, you're most of the time you'll be spending on reading the code. That is a great thing to know. Even as my experience, I can tell you, I still do a lot of reading of code than writing the code. My more you read the code, you will understand the functionality, you understand the core concepts of how function or programming actually works. I'm giving you a very top overview. There's definitely a lot of details. There are a ton of material available online that you can look for in beginning how you can start contributing. So um, this will give you a trust building process on whenever you start contributing. And as I've already mentioned, it will put a great significant on your resume specifying you have contributed to such a project which is available and used by mass. All right. Now, let's also see what are the do's and don'ts of contributing. Some of the do's I would strongly recommend is be inclusive. Be respectful of your viewpoints and experiences. You might not like someone's viewpoint, but we have to also accept that this is a viewpoint and it has to be treated respectfully. Focus what is best for the community. You cannot drive your own idea on everyone. You cannot force implement everyone your own idea. A simple example would be Linux. Linux kernel has so many different distributions now. May it be Ubuntu, Red Hat, or Canonical. There are many right now. So this is the simple example I can give you, showing empathy towards new contributors. Like someone is contributing and you start dictating your terms. No, it should not be like that. You should be extremely humble when someone makes a smallest contribution, because that's how they all gonna learn. Ah, no trolling. Nope. I know it feels sometimes that it's good, but no, it's not. In a community driven, you might not know what the person is real mindset is and what exactly how they're feeling about it. So yes, no trolling, no harassment, and whenever you are contributing to, or you are participating in a chat, don't just say hi. I know it's a nature by default that we will wait for a response from an hi, and we see that other person is not busy, but we have to respect others time, and just not by just saying hi, but we can also provide them why we are saying hi for, and why exactly where we need help. By doing these some of the things, you will be exemplary doing your things and contributing towards the code, and you will get the best out of how to contribute. Coming to that, GitLab has an open hackathon starting from February 22nd to 24th. As I've already stated, it is not just limited to code. You can bring your design inputs, you can pick a doc to fix, you can submit your as minimum contribution. The whole process is very much available. Just type GitLab hackathon and you will go to our community page and it will guide you how you can start contributing. So it'll be a virtual event, and you will be joining the contributors and GitLab team members directly. So it'll be a great learning experience for sure. Now, I open the floor for any questions. Ask me anything.
Thank you, sir. That was really a very beautifully crafted and so much information put in such a concise way sort of presentation. Totally loved it.
Thank you.
Uh, I see there are many questions in our curious audience. So the first one is, in the next 20 years, where do you see India as a market for premium version control systems, and what will be the expected changes in present technologies for the same?
So it was a great question, Ashmi. In next 20 years, that'll be a long time. The things are changing so fast. I would say every day I'm seeing a new feature coming and releasing. So definitely version controlling is definitely moving towards the right direction. It is the need of the hour, because with so many contributions we do definitely need a better solution which can handle all these contributions in a most efficient and diligent ways. Plus, the thing is, when things go massive, there will be definitely some roadblocks in accessing the code. So if you talk in technical terms, there may be some very big commits that our system might not handle. So there are some challenges in the current system, but definitely we need better solutions as well, or improve the current scenarios, or improve the current tools we have to better, uh, you can say, in the better of improving in collaboration for sure.
So, um, so you mentioned to improve the current version system. So, being a sophomore at present, in which direction can we think to improve that right now?
So the biggest project that I can think of right now is Git. Git is again an open source version control system. You can download the source code. You can check what are the current roadblocks. There are open issues, as I've already mentioned. There are open issues which community is actively looking for that requires participation. So pick your own problem set and start working on it. That may be your first thing that I can suggest.
Sure, and the same question we have from Prem, that what projects can we participate in as a first timer?
So, Prem, that's totally depends upon your interest areas. There are open source projects for approximately many technologies, many choices that you make. It's not just related to just technology. It is now also open to open hardware. So, depending upon your interest types, you can pick your projects. If you're a design, you can start contributing towards the design projects. You can start contributing to the docs project, coding, blockchain. There are many projects, as you can see in their hackathon as well. There are many things that are actively need contributions. So for sure, you can pick your own battle.
Abhishek asks, how does open source ensure security of data? I mean, that's
Yeah,
really a big concern.
exactly. So how open source ensures security of data? So open source, when I say, it is not just open source, it is everyone's responsibility. The source code is available to everyone. If you find a problem, please bring it, please bring it for everyone to notice. That is what the whole open source idea is. Open source won't ensure the security of data, but it is relying on the community to make sure how you can safeguard your data. Plus, there are already tools which are built on top of these open source technologies which you can use to secure your own data.
Definitely, it's indeed the power of the people. Open source is the power of the people. Contribute back to your society. The next question we have is, Sir, I have heard that open source companies like OneSite hires engineers as full time. So, if the companies are open source, how are they making money? All right, the
That's a
monetary aspects.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I'm glad, Kanan, you have asked this. So, the as I've discussed earlier, it's a proven business model. How I'm saying so because when enterprises, large enterprises uses any open source tools, they also expect support. They also expect some premium features out of it. So then there are companies like Red Hat. So what Red Hat does, Red Hat provides enterprise solutions. What they do is they provide support to their enterprise customers. They add on features based on their demand. So these are the companies built on top of the open source by providing premium support, premium features which are limited to you can say customers who are paying for it. So enterprise customers and enterprise solutioning is how all these companies are making money right now.
Dhruv asks, what's your take on long-lasting battle between competitive programming and open source contribution?
Oh, that's a good one. So, competitive programming and open source contribution. Competitive programming is more you are focused towards solving a problem that is limited to certain things. But open source contribution is more like you know a problem and you're working towards a fix. It cannot be the ultimate fix. But when you're talking about a competitive program, you are just given a direction saying, hey, I just want this feature. But in open source, it is not just the problem definition. It can be many more things with that feature set. You might want to integrate a simplest module to your code, but it can do so many things which others can also contribute. So that is the thing, but I still pick open source for sure without that, like hands down.
Hands down, this is definitely the buzz around like solving data structures and algorithms. We should focus on the technical rounds, or should we go with the development sides for the resume? This battle
Exactly.
is never ending.
And the thing is like it's we should not follow the herd that everyone is using data structures. Definitely data structures you should know. You should, these are good to know things, but are these the only things? No, you can, like, again, you should not force yourself to learn something which is not your interest. First identify your interest and work towards it. Open source give you those platforms to identify those interests. The best thing is no one is judging you when you are let's say intern doing internship. You always have a fear in your mind that hey, someone will be judging me based on my contributions or whatnots. But when you're working on an open source project, you are completely taken off from that fear that hey, maybe it's a bad code, but you still contribute. There will be someone who will come and help you in improving that code base. Best learning experience. So competitive programming is one aspect. It is good to know, but it is not the only thing, I would say.
Yeah. All right. The next question we have from Mukul Thakur, and he asks how to start open source contribution with Java, and what should be minimum skills in Java to start contributing.
Uh, for Java, luckily it is acquired by Sun and Oracle now. So with Java, there are many projects right now that are there in this. I don't know the list by my mind right now on the top, but there are many projects that are there which requires active contributions on Java as well. Um, you can go to the website for GSOC and you can filter out the projects based on the technology that you're interested in and start contributing.
Harshita asked, are there any student-specific community engagement programs offered by GitLab?
So GitLab has many programs. One is Hackathon. Then there is GitLab Heroes. There are different programs that GitLab offers. So when you say community engagement programs, the recent one is Hackathon that I've already mentioned. Then, if you're not interested in Hackathon, you can start picking issues from our issue tracker, which are marked as open source contribution or request accepting merge requests. Pick those issues, work towards it. You can become a GitLab core contributor. There are many benefits out of being a core contributor. You get to participate in all the GitLab contributes that happens across the globe. Um, Plus, it also has goodies that you can win even for your smallest contribution. So there are different programs that definitely you can participate in.
So, Harshita, go on the website, surf that, and get involved. The next question we have from Gauri, and she asks, having worked in GitLab for so many years and being an open source guy, what's your take on open source and the opportunity it renders to the programmers?
So, a few years back, I would say you could not think of just being an open source person and make your living. That would have been hard. But now scenarios are changing big time. Now people are explicitly paying for, you can say, just maintaining a repository to the latest standards. Um, you contribute and you can get with GitHub coming to sponsorship icon where you can simply open source your project and people can sponsor you based on your contribution. So um, things are changing really fast, and um, as I'm seeing, it's going to be the future for sure.
The future for the good of the society.
That's true.
Samadeep asks, Sir, as we know your interest in confronting bias and cross cultural communication in the workplace, how can we strike a balance for inclusion and diversity when handling such sensitive situations?
Oh, that's a good one. At GitLab, we definitely believe in inclusion and diversity. That means everyone is heard, no one is left out, or no one should be. You can say create an inclusive environment. May it be uh, color, caste, gender, whatever it is. No matter, everyone should be willing to accept what they are. It should not be a bias that because there is always an unconscious bias that is there, that okay, hey, because I'm from certain you can say breed or certain color, I'm of certain color, there is always a bias that happens in our mind, but we have to ignore that while working in such a collaborative world, because we have to understand that everyone is a human first and then everything comes second. So the strike a balance, definitely I would highly recommend you to look at our handbook and look at the inclusion and diversity page. It talks very well about how we cater it, because GitLab is 100% remote company with 1,500 people working across the globe. We are remote, so we do come up with these problems day in, day out. So this is how we are handling it. I would highly recommend you to go look at our handbook page on inclusion and diversity.
Your
That was
take
so
on,
beautiful.
yes,
It
yep.
was. It is indeed the need of the hour. Everyone should be able to celebrate diversity and stand on equal footing. The next question we have is from Anirudh Atri, and he mentions that what advice will you give to those who are transitioning themselves to DevOps, since many find it difficult while moving to it? Also, how AI and ML tools introduced in DevOps helpful for all?
AI and ML, AI and ML, if implemented or if understood properly, are a great means, and definitely they are. There are some really great benefits to it. Uh, to coming to your question, moving to DevOps is something that if you're interested in, you should automatically do it. Pick one tool at a time because there are so many tools available in the market. So you can start with a very basic CI/CD, like understand how continuous integration and continuous delivery works. Then there are many tools that are available that you can start with, either Terraform, Docker, Kubernetes. So there's definitely a learning curve involved, but if you learned it, there's a thing called open stack developer, or you can say not an open stack, but a full stack developer. So more like coming to what it was earlier and today's time, the industry is moving towards full stack development. So everyone should know everything, not everything, but they should know and understand everything. They should not be an expert, but they are aware of the things. So um, transitioning to DevOps, it's a great thing. It's the future. It's already been adopted in the industry. There are many challenges. Earlier, I do remember I used to open FileZilla, upload each and every directory. Now the process is completely automated thanks to the DevOps toolings and solutions that are available in the market now. I don't have to do anything. I just need to do a commit, push it to the servers. Automatically all the tests runs. Automatically it runs, scans my code vulnerabilities and everything, checks for licensing and everything, and gets deployed to the server, and without much hassle. So yes, definitely it's on an upcoming scale, and AI and ML are contributing towards it for sure. So uh, combination of both is amazing.
Okay, so Ashmit asks, how does the version control system work efficiently? What is the mechanism behind that?
Oh, that's a very big question. I'm not sure if I can fit the entire answer in this entire session, but to give you a smallest idea, it all starts with very basic, you can say, threadings. It takes with how we have evolved is from SVN. What SVN used to do is it used to make copy of each and every modification in a different folders. So over the period of time, even if I did 100 commits, I have 100 different folders of same size with in an incremental fashion. um, that is a problem. How we have evolved, we introduced Get. So it'll only record the changes that have been made to the code, irrespective to whatever like whatever is not being touched is not being touched. It will start with the linear history. So how version control works efficiently? It starts with the linear history management and start adding, not adding to the entire source code base. It won't make the source code heavy, but a lighter changes, and you can always jump back and forward uh, within the code as well, like whenever you don't like. So efficiency, it has evolved the efficiency a lot for sure. And mechanism, um, it'll be a too broad of a topic if I can introduce at this point of time for sure.
Okay, so the next question we have from Aman is, why languages like C and Java are still in demand, but some other languages lose their importance?
Okay. So C and Java, there are many tools that, or you can say, uh, tools which are now in mammoth size built in C and Java, and we don't have any option to migrate it all of a sudden. Many banking solutions are still using Java. Many, uh, you can say, system level programming is still written in C. Their code is being made, and it is now so much reliant on that changing it overnight won't be an easy task. So they are still in demand. There will always be demand of such things, but there might be some languages which get obsolete because technology is evolving. You might see, when I started my development, I would say I used to use jQuery. Now there are so many frameworks that are built on JavaScript itself, may it be uh, a serverless node or React or Vue. There are many things. So technology is evolving. Whichever technology solves the maximum problem, it's going to be there. And when I say C and Java are uh, evolving as well. So it is not just that they are the same C what I used to do in my early days. So it is also evolving. So definitely there is always been demand. Oh, Mm, I okay, I'll say it. Don't use Windows 10 or 11. Use Linux rather than
Sure, you use
Windows.
Linux.
Use Linux. You will love it once you start using it. Why I'm saying so? Because even if it's the standard in the industry now that people are migrating towards Linux, because it brings you the open like you can do whatever you want based on the things that you want to do. And Windows 10 and Windows 11 is definitely our resource heavy operating systems, wherein Linux can give you a better understanding. Plus it is going to be the future, where if you are thinking in terms of moving your career towards the development side, start using Linux.
Sure, okay, Ashma, just go sudo apt and you'll be apt for everything. Okay, another question on the same line. So, Linux or iOS, which is better?
Oh, um, um, they both are using Linux kernels, so it doesn't matter. You can use Linux or iOS. Linux give you far more control. iOS, on the other hand, is a closed source product. Uh, I won't say that it's bad. It is amazing. This is how a program should work, I would say. But Linux is a better way to start, I would say. There won't be any comparison, I would say, when because they both are using the same Linux kernels at the end. So they both are good in their own aspects. But uh, if I'm talking about a person who cannot afford it, or a person who's living in a village and cannot have the access to all the resources, let's say even with the smallest machine on an Arduino or a very low configuration machine, they can install Linux on it, hands down.
Harshita asks, how thorough one must be with the code base of a project for cracking Google season of dogs.
Okay,
It's really a
so
good
yeah.
question.
So code base of a project. If you're interested in docs contribution, you should understand what exactly these docs are for. Code base, when I say, it's a good to know. You should try implementing that things by yourself and see what problem you're trying to solve when updating a doc. There may be a situation when you're creating a troubleshooting section. There are many common case scenarios where people might misconfigure their things and they, hey, I'm stuck, I don't find anything in your docs. They check with different uh, platforms where they will find different solution, and they end up complicating their own system. So what you can do is try and understand the problem and give a solution based on the docs. So understanding of code is good, but it is not the only requirement. You can ignore the code part but implement the solution on its own and see what you are exactly you're trying to fix in the docs.
I'd like to take that further. Like being a backend developer myself, I work with Django. So sometimes you just get stuck in the code base, right? You just get
Mhm.
that's the you're not able to escape from that world, and then you feel like, okay, let's just keep that aside and switch to another code. So how should one keep that motivation in them to dig it further and further and further to make a big contribution?
That's a very common problem within the developer community. So
Yes.
what you said, context switching. Change the context, try on some other problem, start, but keep the problem in your back of your mind and work on something else. Because that's how you are not going to be underproductive or deproductive, I would say. I'm not sure what's the right word, but you won't lose your productivity. You can change the context, you can work on some other problems, keeping the problem in your back of your mind. Seek help if you required, Don't beat yourself up to a problem that, hey, I don't know, and don't be ashamed in asking questions. This is my biggest learnings. Don't be ashamed in asking questions, and no question is small. You might find that, okay, if I ask this question, it may be it might not fit, for it might make me look bad. But if you I have learned it the hard way that if you ask questions, there are many others like you who is also having the same question, and they are in a hesitant position that if we cannot ask this question because this is too basic, I should know this basic. No, don't beat yourself, because you're not no one is expecting you to know everything. It's okay to ask questions as long as it is reasonable. So don't change the context, ask questions. It's okay to ask questions.
All right, I'll take that advice and implement it for sure. The next question we have is from Rishabh, and he asks, while learning several programming languages, how we got to know that we are ready for contribution in open source.
So, Rishabh, just one advice. Don't use multiple programming languages, because it's easy to get into flow that it's okay to know your interest, but identify one programming language that interests you the most and move ahead from that. Because if you sail in too many boats, you might not end up in one place. You might not be an expert. You might have some hesitancy in understanding the code at some point. So what I would recommend, pick one at a time and give your 100%, and then start contributing. Because if you understand that code, that how well it is written, it will give you an added advantage in contributing to that code as well. It's good to know multiple programming languages, but at least clear your concepts in one programming language that you can see that you are expert in, or not. If not expert, that okay, you are very comfortable with. I myself consider comfortable with Ruby. Rest everything is my side projects, or you can say, if given a chance, I can understand that code because I understand Ruby well. It can easily for it's easy for me to just transfer that knowledge or implement to in other coding languages as well. So pick one, and then think of starting with the contribution side.
Right. Arihant, you mentioned that you have Ruby as your main and rest are the side projects. So whenever you like see someone's resume, since you are working in the GitLab, so are the projects on the same language looks good? Just like you have three projects and they're mentioned on the sure that shows the expertise in that single framework or whatever. Or does you should have diversity in different things that
So
gives.
it totally depends upon what that need of the that particular role or requirement is. Because many a times what happens is a company is looking for a full stack developer. You might have seen, saw a lot of memes saying 20 years of 20 technologies with 2 years of experience. No one can do that. Like it's hard, it's very hard. There are so many memes, and they're actually true, that companies are expecting you to know so many things with so little of experience. It's technically impractical. So it if you feel that you're comfortable with one, do explain your projects. But as a side learning, you can also start learning other things. Let's say Go, uh, Java, or Python. Python is great. Python and Ruby shares a lot of similarities in terms of writing code. So it's good to know things, but it is not a mandatory thing, because it totally depends on the requirement. Because a company might look for an analyst who understand the code in Ruby and Python, and but this is just limited to understanding. But on the other side, a company who is looking for a backend engineers just for Ruby, the whole idea is, if you're applying for a backend role, the whole idea is how good are your concepts, and how comfortable are you with the code. That's it. No one is expecting you to be an expert from the day one itself. So uh, totally depends upon the requirement and your interest.
All right. So, do we have any more questions or should we proceed to wrapping up the session? Any more questions from the audience?
Those are some of the great questions, I would say.
the amazing participants of the hackathon. They're definitely the pro coders we have in here today. Uh, all right. So let's proceed with the vote of
Yes.
thanks. I guess there are no more questions and no more queries.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, sir, for like really. It was really a very insightful session, and many of our queries have been resolved thanks to you. Okay, and it imparts us immense pleasure to propose a word of thanks to Sir for giving such an interactive session. Your vision and approach have summoned the neurons of all participants. Truly.
That's amazing.
Indeed.
It was likewise, and indeed, it is actually uh, my pleasure to meet with such an amazing bunch of enthusiasts who are willing to participate in the open source community. So, thank you so much for inviting.
In
Thank you so for
addition,
joining us.
yes,
Yeah,
and
we hope we'll meet you in person as well once the college reopens, and we'll be glad to have you once
yes,
again. The gates of NIT Hamirpur are always open for you. So yeah, and we hope all the queries of the curious minds attending the session must be quenched, and the true beauty of open source must have eluded you all. And in
in
addition, we'd like
addition,
to
we'd like
thank, yeah,
in addition we'd like to thank GitLab for being a title sponsor and facilitating this amazing session as a part of Electrothon 4.0. And last but not least, we'd like to thank a curious audience sitting over here and posting such brilliant questions and bringing spark to the event.
and with this, we come to an end to today's webinar and hope to see your best foot forward in the upcoming sessions. Till then, keep brainstorming over your pieces of code, fixing tons and tons of bugs, and nourishing the creative zest in you. Never
Have a
let the learning stop.